for sure.
Hey, look, audience. Y'all tuning in to Verb Pick Radio. Well, me and Low Key, we already done dove in, right? We gonna bring y'all in, but we finna take off with consciousness and the memory of takeoff. But I gotta finish this point before we get to the main subject, right? Now check this out, right? Black women want to blame black men for everything negative that happened to them. Some aspects I can understand that if the father left the house and then you blaming all black men from how you view your father. But that show on Huntsville, Alabama, the Real Housewives of Huntsville or whatever, and how they dogging this dude Martell, right? For something, now check this out, brother Loki. For some reason, Martell has become the prototype for all black men. And Melanie has become the victim of whatever they say, whatever pain they say Martell caused Melanie, right? Which I don't know the whole in-depthness of it, right? But I'm just from what me walking by glancing while she watching television, right? So now check this out. Now they having spiritual Bible readings on this show and where the details, right? So men, we out here going about our everyday life, right? Bringing money in the house, putting groceries in the house, trying to create order, right? But for some kind of reason, Hollywood done swept into the black woman's mind, just like they did with this two of the worst times that I could think of. One was this women rights thing where white folks was fighting against her man and got black women to join in her fight when black men wasn't keeping black women from working or the right to vote because white women want to leave the house. They want the same job that the man had. Black men were like, man, if you can get out and make some money, go enjoy yourself. You know, if you want to vote, that we wasn't in your way for doing anything of that nature. Have fun. They got us entwined into. They got the black women entwined into the women libs thing. Then they got the black women entwined to. They got the black women intertwined into joining in with the demasculination of the male, right? Okay, just like now, this lady named Carrie Lake was running for a seat in Arizona, I believe, right? Anyway, she wanted to file charges against Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union for Zaya, which is the son, but they put hair on him and dress him up like a female. Right? Now, check this out. You got women who would say, well, that's okay if to put the pink on the son. And the man is like, nah, my son finna get ready for football. He not finna wear no all damn. What the hell are you talking about? But it's like some of these issues and topics that's entering into the household is not anything that we created. It's coming outside the household and to the household. So, brother Low Key, as a man, when something comes into your household that you see, that you deem from your mindset to say that, well, this shouldn't be here, what you gonna do?
It gotta go. Something in the household that shouldn't be there.
Right.
It's not allowed. It's not allowed.
Right. Now, now check this out. Now, if it's not allowed, right, then it's the man's job. Now, this is the thing. It's the man's job to say, this is why, because men are analytical. Men are not emotional. Men would say, well, the reason being is because it might create this, and down the line, it would create this. We got peace now, and I don't want to have to fight this 3 years from now. Child may be confused and whatnot. When let's just let nature and God and Himself lead the way without putting your influence on it. Let's let it be natural. You know? And what is wrong with that? You know, we fighting issues that don't even make sense. That's my point. It's crazy, bro, what's going on out
You
here.
know what?
Uh-huh.
I wanted to add something to what you were saying about the natural thing.
All right.
Once again, Quasi Joe here, something he brought up on his channel. He was talking about how psychologically we have these thoughts and we know that it's not of our nature. And he said that the thing is that it's not our thoughts. We're in a reality where you have all these things in media, YouTube, everything that we look at, we're constantly bombarded, and we make the choice, and a lot of it, in most cases, to be bombarded with all of these thoughts, messages, images, things, and movies dealing with homosexuality and things that are, you know, by and large, 99% not. You're not going to find that historically with African people. Now, me personally, I haven't seen the evidence of it with ancient African people, but I know that there's been some discussions about it. So I'm not saying that I know for a fact that it doesn't exist, but I know by and large that's not, you know, part of our, you know, heritage and our culture. You know, we've always been about balance, yin yang, masculine, feminine principle, etc. You know,
Right.
so and balance my eye. You know, so. These thoughts and these images that we're bombarded with, whenever we have a thought that we know is not of our nature, some people have a tendency to think that it is a product of their own mind, so to speak, or that this must be something that they have an urge for, things that, but no, it's just, you know, one of these thoughts out of the countless amount of thought form energies that just so happen to come our way. So what he was teaching is not to get caught up into, you know, these thoughts and attach it to ourselves, but to just let it bypass and understand that this comes from us being bombarded with all of these particular things. And also, there's also reminds me of the science of the gray cloud. It's a little bit different, but it reminds. The idea is that if you make a mistake in conversation, you're having a business meeting or something, you say the wrong thing or whatever mistake, is not to get caught up in the gray cloud, but just recognize that it has a right to exist because it may manifest and let it bypass. But don't get entangled into these thoughts and these gray clouds because they're not at the core of our being, you know, of our character, of the way that we express ourselves. But we just have to understand that we're in Mount Cook, we're at the end of time, so we're completely surrounded by all forms of debauchery.
Right.
So it is not unnatural for us to have thoughts that we know that we would never carry out, that is not of our true nature, but we're in a real life reality in a ghetto, in a concrete ghetto, in a lot of our backgrounds to where we've been bombarded with atrocities, you know? So, but that doesn't make us the atrocity.
Right.
You know, if you, even if you ever had a thought just on one level of even robbing somebody, but you know that that's not your nature, but maybe a person is in such a destitute position that it may cross their mind, but they never actually act upon it. But look at the environment that we're in. We're in an environment that is not natural to us, you know, in terms of our bloodline, our ancestry, you know, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100% correct. Because we didn't create this environment, right? This environment was created for us, meaning we wasn't the ones who said, you know what, why don't y'all bring drugs into our community and let's just tear it up. Now, we wasn't the ones that said, you know what, we don't like this conscious rap, i.e. Public Enemy or Poor Righteous Teachers or 5% or whatever. Why don't you bring some music in here where we calling each other bitches and hoes and where we talking about killing each other, right? Nah, that didn't come from us. But what I'm saying though, brother low key is, and I'm saying this to black women as well. First, we have to take time to figure out the problem. Because it was just dumped on our heads. Give us time to recover, and then we have to figure out a solution, and then we have to solve the problem. Right? But how can we solve the problem if we fighting over here, we fighting over there, somebody in our ear over here, you know what I mean? It's like, let me catch my breath so we can fix this thing on how it should be, because we know how to fix it, because we have an Akashic record, we have a subconscious mind, our genetics carry memory, so we know what peacetime looks like. It's just a matter of how to create it in this time. Would you have anything to add on to that?
Yes. I'm going to add this is that I think that it is, two things. First, in terms of, the whole thing with the homosexuality and the men and, Europeans, they have a documented history, in particular in Rome and Greece, where you had these leaders who were, wildly homosexuals, and all of these, some of these, so-called holidays or, like Saturnalia were big time homosexual rituals, within their history is well documented. This is a large part of their history, so whenever you, see these people and they're in a weak position or a compromised position, or, they're being misrepresented by, the women of their race or what have you, well, they have a weak background to where it was bound for them, to be in a weak position. They're in a weaker position genetically, spiritually, and physically. I'm not saying this, to try to hurt anybody's feelings, but I mean, it's just a fact. I mean, the genetics are the genetics. The science is the science. And so, but when it comes to our, lineage, is that we don't have, a big, large part of our history that anybody can point to that deals with homosexuality or, being in a weak, compromise, outside of the triangular slave trade. But that was war and bloodshed. That's different from making a choice. What we have now, let's just say brothers and in particular, choosing this lifestyle that is not a large part of our history, if at all. And so our sisters can't expect, brothers to be something that they're not.
Right.
Based on their blood. If you got brothers that are engaging in that, that's because they done got caught up into the great cloud. They got caught up into the idea and the nurturing of, what's going on here in Mount Coop with the media and the movies and being bombarded with it, that now they've made the choice, or they have even been programmed into falling into these things. So parents have to be especially keen in these times and explaining these things to these children, because it's going to be easier for a child to get caught up in a thought of something and the idea of something if they haven't been programmed and trained to what balance is and to what, dealing with, the divine feminine principle, the divine masculine principle coming together as one, for the African family, worldwide. They got to be taught that, because, they may, I'm just going to say, even my son, I've been talking to my son about consciousness from day one. Mm-hmm. But even I had to give him the autobiography of Malcolm X, because he wasn't up on it. And I was shocked, because I know I've been talking to him about African superheroes, forever and a day. But, there's a necessity for there to be a bombardment. Since they're getting bombarded with the wrong messages, we have to, bombard them with the reverse programming or our superheroes and our information that's not being taught in the schools in their particular schools and curriculum. So I just wanted to lay that part out about, just in regards to the homosexuality, in regards to the difference. We got to make a clear distinction between the nature of a European, a Tamil, who are Anglo-Saxon, and the African man. It's
Right.
two different lineages, bloodlines, background, characters. It's one. You can't make and expect for a stand-up, solid African man to naturally put himself in the same type of position as a European man. It's just not gonna happen.
Right. But we're in reparative mode because during slavery, the white man was raping was raping some of the men,
Absolutely.
and some of it is been carried over, but it have to be dealt with, is what I'm saying, talked about, psychologically analyzed, because like you stated, we're carrying on behaviors that wasn't what we created. So we have to go back and analyze root knowledge. What caused this? Why is this way? Who done it, right? And that's where we get into the Kyrie Irving thing. Because think about it. 400 years and we wasn't able to read and write. And now we're on the World Wide Web. You can Google. We into the books. People are learning knowledge and they got a thirst for it. And you try to tell grown men that you can't share a link, you can't say this, and you can't talk about this when you see the truth and the evidence is right before you. And you say, well, if it's a lie, then you prove it wrong. And they don't come out and challenge it and prove it wrong. They just say, well, we're going to ban you. We're going to shut you down. And boy, you better not talk like that again. It's like it's too late. I mean, they are actually protesting in front of the Barclays Center where the Nets play. I mean, this thing it's out the bag now. How do you, Brother Key, what do you think about the energy that's surrounding the Kyrie Irving and the Kanye West with the European Jews?
Man, I think it's beautiful. I've been listening to the Moors, the RBGs. I need to reach out to my nephew who's a Hebrew and chop it up with him. But I mean, this conversation is popping amongst conscious people. I'm so proud of conscious people taking advantage of this platform, this opportunity to have this conversation dealing with identity. We've been screaming it on this podcast, Rebel Pick Radio, for a long time.
Right.
And, now it got to a point to where they're protesting, but they're protesting around an energy that goes back to our identity because we were stripped of our identity. So, you got the brother Sarah breaking out the Talmud and revealing Jews out of there that, the holy book of the Jewish community there, which is a literal law book that you could take into a courtroom, has overt, outright racism in it. Using the term Negro, this is supposed to be based on ancient texts, but you have using the word Negro, which, according to Sarah, came into play in the 1600s, being used inside the Talmud to degrade black people. And matter of fact, since I brought it up, I might as well go ahead and read. This comes from Cyrod channel. Shout out again to the RBG, Brother Cyrod Sudisetti. I want to read this excerpt out of the Talmud. It says, "Now I cannot beget the fourth son, whose children I would have ordered to serve you, and y'all got to excuse me, it's a little bit blurry, so I'm going to paraphrase. To serve you and your brothers, therefore it must be Canaan, your firstborn, whom they enslaved." And Canaan is the Moors, code word for the Moors, another word synonymous, Phoenician, same thing. whom they enslaved. And since you have disabled me, doing ugly things in blackness of night, Canaan's children shall be born ugly and black. Say that again. Canaan's children shall be born ugly and black. Moreover, because you twisted your head around to see my nakedness, your grandchildren's hair shall be twisted into kinks, and their eyes red. Again, because your lips jested at my misfortune, theirs shall swell. Let's say that again. Again, because your lips jested at my misfortune, theirs shall swell. And because you neglected my nakedness, they shall go naked, and their male members shall be shamefully elongated. That's the sign. We know that's real. That was really bad. That was really bad. Men of this race are called Negroes. This is the Talmud, the Jewish holy book, law book of the Jewish community. Men of this race are called Negroes. Their forefather Canaan commanded them to love theft and fornication, to be banded together in hatred of their masters, and never to tell the truth. Man, come on now.
Yeah, that song that compares to what was created in the Willie Lynch doctrine, where they purposely put the old against the young and the dark against the light and the male against the female and whatnot, and then wouldn't allow the slaves to read or write for 400 years so they can create a character.
Right.
That's, I mean, wow. And when the fact remains that black people had been in existence before there was anything called a Caucasian. So how can the features? Let me explain this to people so they can understand. When God created Himself, and when the Creator created man, He created man from that triple darkness or that dark matter that was in the universe, that carbon, that hydrogen, that oxygen, and that nitrogen, which makes up melanin. Melanin is the oldest substance known to man. So when He created man in His image, in His likeness, He created the black man and woman, His image and His likeness. And then all other races came from that one blood. But some kind of way, somebody, and from what you reading is for the Talmud, stepped in and said, well, no, this is a new narrative, and we're going to say that the original people of God are that way due to a curse, because we're upset that we're not the original children of God. And we're going to dog your trail. We're going to hound you. We're not going to let up off you. And we're going to hide your identity so we can be in the limelight. Until when, though? I mean, how long can falsehood stand? Meaning, how long before the truth starts to come out and start challenging what was false? And it kind of seems like that's where we are today, because when my big brother, right, when Minister Farrakhan came on the subject, and when I say big brother, it's like when I was younger, and you see two young people fighting, and one said, I'm finna go get my big brother, right? Everybody knew when big brother come his own. You know what I mean? So big brother came out and spoke on behalf of Kyrie Irving and Kanye West as saying, I got your back. Because once you step into this arena, ain't no turning back. Kyrie, I don't know if it's true. They were telling me that he resigned. He no longer with the Nets.
No, I haven't heard that.
Okay, I heard either, but I
That
heard people were saying
Nike,
that. But I know he was suspended for
Nike,
5 games.
yeah, Nike did release him from the contract.
Nike released him.
Yeah,
I
Nike
mean,
released terminated the contract.
but all for just sharing a link to a movie that, like he said, I didn't write it or whatever, but it's some information in there that's interesting. I think people need to look at this thing. But it goes back to what you're saying. You're right. If they see you as cattle, or if they see you as a Negro, then in their minds, a Negro don't have a position to where any white man has to respect. And you're right, they call us Negroes because Negroes mean a dead thing, right? I don't know what's the title of or how they display Negro in the Black Laws Dictionary. You might can shed some light on that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, even beyond the Black's Law, because Black's Law was one thing, but they legally, even higher than that in terms of court and their system, their legal system, is the Negro Law of South Carolina, where they define Negro as being an enslaved African and a descendant of the ancient Berbers. You know, so Negro is code word for an enslaved Moor. A Moor that has been denationalized is the definition of Black African American or Negro. Because like Sarah Susan said, and we were just talking about it, is that before, when it came to Europeans worldwide, for one, we didn't even call them Europeans. We called them Englishmen or Christians or things of that nature. Before the term Negro came into play, when they saw an African person, they referred to him as Moor. You know, and that's a quote from Sarah. You know, so yeah. Their definition of Negro is an enslaved Moor, a denationalized Moor.
Now, and it's funny you mention that because in Spain, the Moors protected the Jews. They were friends. Matter of fact,
Right, but here's the question though, Black, is were these Moorish Jews, the Maranos, or were these the people that took on the identity and call themselves Jewish of today? Because we know that the Maranos, the Moorish Jews, were definitely, you know, out here getting putting their thing down, and it was the Islamic Moors who protected them.
right.
In fact, you know, so we gotta look at that too and see which, you know, were we strictly protecting Moorish Jews, or did we also protect the European Jews? Is the question.
See, and that's another study. This is, everything's out in the open, like the song say. Everything's out in the open. It has to come out, right? So we can deal. And I know we getting close because DeSantis in Florida said that Florida is the state where wokeism comes to die, meaning Black history, they shutting it down. Because why? Because you got a lot of Cuban Jews and Jews that's in Florida. They don't want to. They don't want to take a chance to hear about Ethiopian and African and Sudan or Somali Jews, or the Bantu or anything of that nature, or blacks calling themselves Semites or Semitic people, although Hebrew was originated in North Africa. The language. So all of this is interesting, all the way down to where they can call someone from North Africa can take on the race of being white. It's all intertwined in that whole deal. Now you're right. The European Jew from uh, from Europe, I don't know. I mean, we're trying to check their lineage to where they can stake claim into
They come from Germany.
Africa. So they originated. They coming up out of Germany.
Right.
Okay, I'm. We got.
Matter of fact, I think Germany, it's been a while since I seen the article, but they were allowing, Europeans over here in America to go over there and, get some kind of, privilege or, I don't know if they had anything to do with citizenship or what have you, but they have some kind of provision for them. But, to my understanding, that's where their lineage, comes from. Germany. The Germanic tribes, as we know them as, we find a large part of their lineage coming from there, if not the source. We still looking into that, but definitely a large part of their history can be found and located in Germany. And that's really just European people in generally speaking, but in particular, we're talking about the people who took on the religion of Judaism and called themselves Jewish, which Judaism finds its origin in Kabbalah, in Kabbalism, which is a Kemetic science,
Right.
An advanced science, so it's something that their rabbis practice as well. So it's just so much that black people who are running to defend these people they don't know in terms of their culture and the advanced nature of the science that they're dealing with when they're sitting amongst them and they're having meetings with them and, having galays and, they're around them. And those of us who study Kabbalah, we're looking at black people, in these videos and in these pictures with these people and we're like, y'all don't even know the kind of heavy science that is being put down on y'all forehead, right in your face, because they're not aware of the science and they don't study and apply the science. So they don't know that, the tree of life, this concept of the tree of life finds its origin in the Kabbalah, not in Christianity. That came later. The whole diagram, you can find it in Kemet or in Kemetic metaneta, so which is Egyptian. So, they're just totally unaware of the gravity of even what they're dealing with. And to no surprise of why they're acting as almost like they're zombies when they get on these podiums with a microphone and embarrass themselves. Calling Kyrie an idiot, just really shows the depths of their ignorance and their lack of awareness when it comes to the history of these particular groups of people, in particular, the history of themselves, where they come from, and all things that have political influence on them.
Yeah, well, they messed this thing up because if they just when Kyrie Irving, even Kanye, but when Kyrie Irving shared the link, if they just would have been quiet and wouldn't even said nothing, that would have been it. But they came and jumped on and tried to punish and tried to put their weight down. And what that did was made people say, hey, wait a minute. You can't punish no. People share links all day. You know how much negative links they share on black people and slavery. And as I stated with the wokeism in Florida and taking certain words out of books. And people are like, wait, you can share a link. And then they say, well, what is Hebrew to Negroes? Then folks start watching it. Then Shaq showing it in his private theater. Floyd Mayweather came out in support of Kyrie. Just a wave and the energy started building, saying, wait, what are you talking about? And it's too late. You didn't open up Pandora's box and you can't put it back in. This topic is being discussed all over the globe. Even white kids are looking at the movie and they researching and they asking questions. Well, I thought this, meaning the worst thing is when you try to hide the truth, because you can't, the truth will come out. You cannot hide it. You can hide it for a time, but you can't hide it forever. And that's where we at today. I mean, it's like you stated, man. I get it. It's a wonderful thing, because one, knowledge is being present now, where it was deprived, and also it's breaking that myth where it was stated that if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in the book. Where you got conscious brothers and sisters who love opening books. All through the book, talk about books, will tell you what books to go pick up. Brother Kid's been plenty times you done stated, check this book out, this book written by so and so here. I got a book, Consequence by Vince Cole Muhammad. Go check it out. Books everywhere. You know what I mean? So hey, mother. Now let me ask you this, brother Lowe, before we go. Right now, is this everything that's happening? Is this prophecy, or did we just will this thing into existence?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a combination of destiny and choice. And on the subject of books, I don't have my dictionary of races of peoples right here in front of me, but I got some notes here. And I always bring up this dictionary because it holds more weight in the courtroom than the Black's Law Dictionary or Bouvier Dictionary or any of these dictionaries, which they have legal definitions and legalese in it, but they were not published by the United States. This dictionary comes straight from the U.S., and it has the definition of different races and peoples, and, this is going to hold more weight in court. So when we look up Semitic, Semitic, by their definition, by the United States definition, includes Ethiopians, Israelites, Abyssinians, Hebrews, Phoenicians, Canaanites, which, remember, Phoenicians and Canaanites is synonymous with the Moors, and Ethiopians and Israelites is also synonymous with the Moors when you go into Amos chapter 9, verse 7, and in the New King James Version of the Bible, and also look up that same chapter verse in the New International Version, and you'll see, the Bible talking about the Israelites and the Cushites and the Ethiopians being the same thing. But you got to get both versions so you can get different angles, because they told it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and if they got it from us, we were just telling the truth, and they just documented it. And that's why the knowledge was passed on to them by the Moors, because there was prophecy that there was going to be a time where we needed to have custodians of the information, because our rulers were getting further and further away from tradition, and eventually we fell asleep, and all this stuff was prophesied that we would, look like Egyptians and be in another land which is not necessarily Egypt, with the mind of a whole other people. This is all African prophecy.
Right.
So yeah, I just wanted to put that on the record as well while we're talking, because, it's one thing to talk about even the documentary and all of these things, but we want to put these particular books that are heavyweight books when you step into a courtroom, where opinion doesn't matter nearly as much as actual facts, things that you can look up in black and white. That includes the Holy Bible, the Talmud, the Dictionary of Races of Peoples. These things hold heavy weight, so we need to inject this into the conversation, because this is how we further sophisticate this conversation, and always remembering that the whole reason is behind the importance of identity is because it's going to lead us back to our ancient indigenous spirituality, which is the only way that we can free ourselves from getting caught in the circles of the matrix.
So you said that it takes more than one book. Meaning, can you do it all with just the Bible, as far as proving lineage and nationality in court, or would you need other books to support what's written in one book?
theoretically, you can go into a courtroom with just the Bible, and if you're looking to change your race and national origin to Semitic, let's just say,
Okay.
Theoretically, you could get it changed just based on the premise of the Bible, and then also you will want some community recognition, so you'll want to be a part of an organization that has other members that share that same identity, and that's the
Oh.
one.
So you saying, so now, as far as Islam, you can go into court with the Quran.
Absolutely.
But you saying if you go with the Torah, if the white Jews go with the Torah or the Bible, they couldn't prove their lineage to some of these tribes.
Well, okay. So, when it comes to Caucasian, because when you look up the definition of Semitic in the Dictionary of Races of Peoples, it speaks on the Caucasian race. Well, there's a big misunderstanding, and that's a whole nother podcast where we got to flesh out the definition of Caucasian, even based on the Anglo-Saxon, definition. These British people that run the United States, their definition of Caucasian, because it's not. When you read it, you see a lot of African identities are attached to the Caucasian race.
Right.
So that's a big misnomer, when it comes to what is Caucasian people. That's why, some people have elected to take that out of, as a reference point to who these people are, where their origin, what they to be defined as, so could these, Germans go in there and use, these references, the Bible, to prove their lineage? No, I don't. There's nowhere in the Bible that I've ever seen, and it doesn't exist where Europeans are attached to the Semitic group, Semitic race of people. Now, when you go into their definition, I haven't seen it, but there may be. We're going to have to go back in and look at it and see if they've provided themselves a fake lineage to attach themselves with the Semitic identity, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but it's definitely not in the Bible. It's definitely not in the Torah. And, we're still fleshing out this Talmud. I'm about to order one myself so we can start digging into that. But I haven't seen it in any of those books.
This is, this is historic. This is evolving or life-changing topics that's being taken place today. This will go down in infamy and also in history. This is, we didn't see this coming to this degree a year ago, to where the energy is this high dealing with this subject from people all over the globe that's talking about. You can't monitor everybody that's speaking on this subject, because every race from black, white, Hispanic is speaking on this issue. And then I guess I can't predict the future, but I do know this. You have more what they consider black people that learn their identity and lineage or knowledge of themselves, that have a little more pride, a little more pep in their step, that brushed off some of the negative stereotypes that was put on black people purposely to make them feel bad about themselves. Because, in America, you got to be a strong person to fight off these negative stereotypes that's been placed on black people from cartoons all the way down to TV shows to movies to symbolism in this country. You got to be strong to just keep your head up and keep fighting, because they bombarding you with negative energy and negative thoughts, negative connotations, negative words all day long. And the weak the weak ones among us, they fall. They get on drugs. They get on crack. They get, because it's hard. You know what I mean? But those who understand and have knowledge of self, it's like, nah, we the original. They're the ones, that's the carbon copies. We got, and then you don't mind sharing that knowledge, but the purpose of that knowledge is you lifting people up. It's like, nah, dude, you got knowledge of self, man. This is who you are. And it's good to see that smile on their face and they waking up and start acting different, doing different. Like, I was acting this way because I had no knowledge of self. And, hell, I thought that, you had to play the fool in order to get any attention in America, or get this movie job or this acting job, or get me a deal, sign to a label. I got to be this way. Nah, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? You don't have to play the part. Hey, you can be your damn self and enjoy life. But it's a wonderful thing, as you stated, though. Yeah, it's nice as far as on the self knowledge and the awareness and being prideful and just enjoying life. Period, man. It's a good day for some, and it may be a dreadful day for others, but the lies finally being dispelled. That's what's up. But look, before we catch out of here, man, anything you want to add?
Man, I'm about to explode. I got so much I want to say, man.
Come on, explode on them, brother. Look, we got time. We got time.
Hey, man, check this out. For one, let me say this on the record. Let me take my hat off. Let me say this on the record. They do not have, these quote-unquote Jewish people do not have a factual lineage in the Semite, Semitic lineage of Shem, Shemitic, whichever term you want to attach to it. They do not have a bloodline lineage to Shem, to the lineage of Shem or Ham, or anything, and now let me ask you, Black. Now, aren't those the sons of, is it Abraham?
Yeah, Abraham is Abraham is the founder of the Abrahamic religion, right? Mm-hmm. And he had Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael was between Abraham and Hagar. And then Isaac came through Sarah later, but and that's the big debate, because God told Abraham that he would bless his firstborn, and his firstborn with Ishmael. But they say that, okay, yeah, Ishmael was the firstborn, but then God chose Isaac. So then, okay, so out of Isaac, he has two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau was red all over, with red hair all over, was supposed to be the lineage of the Caucasian. Mm-hmm. From what they say, and they was twins in the womb, and Jacob had a hold of his heel. But now this is me. I'm thinking I could be wrong. So, and I could be wrong, but I would like to know the identity of Sarah, because I know Hagar was a black Ethiopian or Egyptian woman. Hagar was black. Mm-hmm. Abraham black. So the original Ishmaelites black. Who is Sarah and who is Esau? And that whole deal. So we got to get into that subject right there. From what they say. They say Esau was the Tamahu, right? But we all know, that's like you say, that's a topic for another show. We'll be all night on that.
But so I say this. Shem is the son of Noah.
Right.
Europeans They don't have any lineage.
No,
They are
they don't go back that far.
that Semite is not their race. They are British. They are Irish.
Right.
They are German. They are Dutch.
Right.
These are their, some of their races, their
Right.
lineages.
Right. That's the
Now,
Northmen. Right.
right.
The
So we want to get that
Visigoths,
on
the
the record.
Goths. Right.
Absolutely. So we want to get that on the record, and
Right.
so that we all understand that when they say that they're Jewish, what they're saying is that they're practitioners of Judaism,
Right.
which is a religion which you could be a Muslim, a Jew, a Christian,
Right.
and there are various different races that fall up under these particular religions. So saying one's Jewish has absolutely nothing to do with their ethnicity, their phenotype, their national origin, or their race. Jewish is a religious title.
Right.
So we want to get that on the record, and we also want to get on the record that as well as them not having a bloodline lineage to the Semitic people, they have taken on the identity via the religion of an ancient African
Right.
body of people, as they did with whenever they became Shriners and they put the fez on their head. You go on Google and you Google presidents with fez on their head. They have the African fez, the African tar bush that you often see the Moors, with on their head. And then you look at the definition of white, and under Federal Directive Number 15, on the United States.gov site, and you'll see that they say that they're the original people of North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, which they're none of that. They're not the original people of any of those particular locations. But all of this points in the same direction. Is what they've done is taken ancient identity and they've claimed it as their own, and claimed it to the point to where if a brother like Kyrie comes out and says that he has a connection or a lineage in the Hebrew people, that they would go this far to try to admonish and step on him, because the whole thing is that they don't want us to claim our original identity. They want to keep carrying. They want to put on the fez. They want to say that we're the original Semitic people and you can't say nothing against us or you're anti-Semitic. They want to say that they're the original people of North Africa, because the whole thing was when they denationalized the Moors, they want to take over the identity.
Right.
And they knew that the Moors were, let's just say via the Marranos, the Jewish Moors,
Right.
that these are the Moors that were claiming the ancient Semitic religious identity. And as well with the Islamic Moors with the fez on, they also, by white people identifying themselves as the original people of North Africa as one of the definitions of white, have attached themselves, along with them putting on the fez of Shriners and erecting Shriners hospitals throughout America, is all a ploy for them to take on our identity and stand in our seat over the trade routes and try to keep us as far away as possible from these identities and from us even having the conversation of
Right.
identity, because they know when we do that, we're going to get into law. We're going to start breaking out these law books.
Right.
And they want to keep us away from that by all means.
Exactly. Well, what sparked it? One of the things that sparked what you were saying was when Whoopi Goldberg said that the Holocaust was white on white crime, was white people fighting white people, and they was like, well, white people fighting. Well, I thought the Jews, and that sparked a lot of people getting in the books as well, even though they suspended her from the show for a point of time and made her apologize. But underneath that, folks started researching, was like, yeah, the German, these is, like you stated, one group of Europeans taking on identity as Jews, and the other Europeans didn't, and they got in conflict with each other. And so we would say that's white on white crime. Okay, I'm understanding that. Yeah, and also that's one of the elements that will come about by taking on this topic. One, as you stated, we'll get into these law books and started learning what is and what's not. Then two, we'll start learning how to build an economic base or manage and deal with money. That's another thing they don't want. The science of business, right? That's that's another element that will help in our development, because you got to realize our evolution is not um, is not predicated on outside help from, whether it be the Jews or the white Caucasians or any European. We have to, when they say black folks got to pull themselves up by their bootstraps to not recreate, but to build another peaceful civilization with wealth that we once had. You can go back to Mansa Musa, the richest man ever lived. We got to do it from scratch. That's why I say cream rises to the top. And it's a process. You got to love yourself enough to even get on the journey. Then once you accomplish that, then you got to love yourself enough to start digging and pulling out information without being afraid, because somebody coming for you, because it was a reason why it was against the law for blacks to read or write for 400 years. And with them saying, hey, you can't start reading and talk about who was Semitic and blacks was the first Jews, because we never meant for you to learn that science or that knowledge. That's why we said, if you want to keep anything from a black man, put it in the book, because we was going to always block you from books. We would even block you from your own history. Now, we fighting that fight now. After that fight, then it comes down to managing, budgeting, and creating an economic base. And believe me, they will fight us every step of the way. And you're right. And you got some scared Negroes that don't want no problems. They want their crumbs, they bit, and they will stay in their place. And what they'll tell you, man, just keep your head down and out of sight, out of mind, and hope you can survive until you dead. And you'll get your heaven after you're gone. That's like, that don't fly nowadays, though. That might have flew, back in the day, but now it's like, nah, man, that don't even sound right. I don't want no pie in the sky. I won't mind while I'm still around on solid ground. Something like Brother Collie used to say. But yeah, I won't mind today. We not falling for that no more. It's wild. But yeah, Brother Low Key, this is, like you stated, this is an interesting time, man. I can't get enough of it, bro. To be honest with you. But let me ask you this. What do you see? Because, a lot of times we would have these build-ups, right? And we would discuss things. And a month later, people done went back to sleep. Do you see us steady rolling, or in time that people going to fall back to sleep?
Well, the inevitable is inevitable. We're waking up is on a deeper spiritual level, it's the process of what some people call going to heaven, returning home, or just, transcending third dimension. But based on the principle of rhythm, out of the 7 laws of Tahuti, what goes up must come down and vice versa. So, the awakening is inevitable when it comes to our people. And I think that this situation is a part of compound interest that's leading to the inevitable. And also I wanted to mention that shout out to the brother Kyrie for him identifying himself as an African And the reason why this is important because the Aboriginals, which is new, we as Moors, we were saying that we were Aboriginal indigenous decades ago, and maybe even further back than that. But that's we really coined to my knowledge since I've been conscious for now around 13 years. That's something that whenever I heard conscious people talking about being Aboriginal, it was Moors that were screaming that. And now you have Aboriginals that have come out that are saying that they're not necessarily Moors and they're shitting on Africans and the African identity, as well as the Hebrew Israelites. And, the problem is that what they're doing is they're cutting their nose off to spite their face. When they detach themselves and they shit on the African identity, they cut off their international bloodline and their lineage. Mm-hmm. They're making it domestic. Moors don't think domestic. We think international. Mm-hmm. We think from an international perspective. So we don't confine ourselves just to America or even just to Africa. We're, like Brother Panic said, we're a universal. We're a global people. We're, like Dr. Khalid said, the world is ours, but Africa is our throne. Right. We're so beyond these little petty, definitions that groups of our people are attaching us to put us in a box. We're so beyond that. Our bloodline is so much more vast than that. There's so much royalty, in Africa. There's such a rich lineage that's attached to it. You, as an Aboriginal, you can't, speak so highly of the Moors and then shit on Africans because as Moors, we are Africans. You can't be a Hebrew Israelite and, be so proud of that identity. But when Moses in the Bible in the King James Version is identified as being learned in Egypt and being mighty in his words and deeds and then want to shit on Africans, you can't have it both ways. Right. And also when it comes to this conversation is ultimately not about whether the Bible is an actual real historical book. That's right. That's a debate for another time. Right. We have to understand that we got to use what tools are going to be beneficial to us at this time. So if I'm talking to somebody who dead set on having a Hebrew identity, then what I'm going to tell them is to go into court and get your race and national origin changed to that. Right. Whatever Hebrew identity is going to suit you as far as your group, go and get it changed on the record because it's going to go beyond the domestic contract. It's going to become an international contract that you'll be able to carry on even if war breaks out and the country gets destroyed. Whatever you were identified before that war kicks off, if that country is then destroyed and taken over by another nation, then you're going to still carry the identity that you previously had. Right. So go ahead and get it on the record now and stop thinking everything is domestic and predicated on Europeans in the United States because it's not. When we're talking about doing international business, there are certain standards that are already in place. That's what we're doing it for. We're not doing it for white people. We're doing it to get our business in order for ourselves so we can elevate our mindset on how we move and understand that denationalization, as they said, and I think it's the Trout versus Dulles case, is worse than torture. Mm. In the Quran, they say persecution is worse than slaughter. Mm. So to be persecuted and to be denationalized people running around here with the European identity of Negro is going against us as the original lawmaker. How are we falling under these legal definitions of a foreign entity when we're the original lawgivers and law enforcers? So we got to enforce the identity that we laid out for ourselves that has all our lineage and bloodline attached to it as Africans. And stop trying to, y'all can't be, y'all can't get, I ain't saying this out of ego, but y'all not speaking on this level of the game. It's a lot of opinions, and the best thing that y'all can do is, as far as the Hebrews, is go get your race and national origin put on the record as a religious identity. It doesn't have to be a factual, historical identity. A religious identity is a legal, lawful identity under divine law. You can go and get that done. I don't know what you Aboriginals is going to do. The best thing for y'all to do is get in line with the Moors and become Moors. and get off that Africa hating shit. The FBA too. Get off that Africa hating shit. We are the same people. It don't make y'all look like idiots when y'all separate yourselves from the people we look exactly like, with the same exact phenotypes and bloodline. And y'all try to use any kind of scapegoat. Y'all use European scapegoats to get out of the fact that that's our bloodline and where we come from. The self-sustaining, non-shifting continent that doesn't even have a continental drift, especially. It's the oldest place where you'll find our physical remains, the remains of our lineage, our ancient lineage that's older than our lineage in America. And even if you try to debate and say that that's not the facts, the fact is, if you cut yourself off from Africa, you cut yourself off of so many rights and privileges. That don't even make sense business-wise, logically. And if you a man, that don't make sense even from a left brain perspective to cut yourself off from all of these things, all of these treaties and all of these rights that are allotted to people who have an African lineage specifically. Native American is a very limited identification. American Indian is a limited identification that has semi-sovereign status at its best. And we've been on their reservations, and it ain't nothing to be holding up on high on no pedestal. Cause they hurting too. They doing bad out here too. You know? So we gotta get on another level with business, take the emotions out of it, start dealing as our ancestors did as the law enforcement, lawgivers on a more sophisticated level. And I always understand that all roads lead back to our ancient indigenous spirituality, which is how we save ourselves.
Bro, man, look, well said, and thank you for saying that, bro, because that right there just raised the game up another notch. That is what was needed. Now, from that perspective, you can't go back. For those of you who heard it, you can't go back to Negro. It's over. It's over. It's the game over. It's over. We on another level. We on another playing field now. Look, we ain't on a JV team no more, brothers. You said it's varsity time now. Yes, it's over. This we in a new league, and we steady climbing. That's why I say varsity, because it's something that's higher than varsity, collegiate, and pros. But we getting there. But we no longer on a JV team with what you just stated. For those who heard it, yeah, and that was the wind in the sails to push the boat downstream, because it was stagnated for a while, stuck on a rock or something, I don't know. But it pushed it off that rock. Now it can float. Well, and look, for those of you all that's listening, whenever I do a show with Brother Low Key, there's no really set topics. We just let the universe do what it do, and benefits comes from that. Knowledge comes from that. Although we started off with conscious TakeOff in the memory of TakeOff, who it just troubled me for this young man to be gone at 29. Also, I think the jeweler from Chicago was 29 as well. But people are tired of the murders, but an idle mind. If you're not studying and you don't have, and you're not focused on information and knowledge, okay, it can lead your mind to be idle, but fill it with this knowledge and research and study what brother just said, and go get your identity. And when you doing that and writing paperwork, and you don't have time to be out hunting nobody down or getting caught up in certain things where that might could take your life, because you focusing on something that's gonna give life and that's gonna benefit you. So hey, it's time to get on it, bro. Brother Low-Key, appreciate that, fam.
Hey, I gotta add that about TakeOff, man. As an artist, fellow artist, rising power to the brother TakeOff. Once again, I know that some people, they may get tired of me hollering about the Moors. You know, it reminds me of the Hebrew Israelites. They always bring the Bible out as the answer to everything. But my thing is that I don't care what indigenous identity at the end of the day you identify with, as long as you identify with something pre-slavery.
Right.
Anything attached to slavery, it ain't going to hold the same rights, privileges, and precedents that the ancient identity do, for the record, from a law, legal perspective. And, so with the brother TakeOff, the thing is that I always say this, is that regardless of what conscious, quote-unquote, identity that you take on, one thing about us, African people or so-called black people in America that's conscious is we don't wholesale kill each other like the black Christians do.
Right.
We not out here. You don't hear about us. We have our ups and downs and arguments and, certain bullshit that you've seen over time, but we're not out here wholesale murdering each other, robbing each other, getting over on each other on the level of the black Christians. The black Christians do it all. That's a part of their created culture that was created them via slavery.
Right.
So when you talk about, the brother TakeOff, that was a petty Negro situation. Right. That's the type of shit that pops off with Negroes. That shit don't pop off with us as kinds of people.
No.
We're not perfect, but we ain't that.
Right.
You don't hear that. And right. I've been conscious for 13 years. Right. So I can tell you as a brother that went to say how I've been amongst the conscious people, that shook hands, broke bread with, my closest circle of people, the people I talk to on a regular basis. We don't engage in that. That ain't our culture. That ain't by and large, that ain't what we about.
Fact.
Right. And for that reason alone, that's enough to put on the varsity jacket and at the very least look into your Hebrew identity as you get into your 101s of consciousness, your beginning stages. That's at the very least, that's a good place to start. Fact. Because Negro, obviously, that's the bottom of the barrel. That's a European identity that we didn't create. The word does go trace back to Sanskrit, but in Sanskrit, it was talking about serpent energy, kundalini energy, things of that nature. It had absolutely nothing to do with a modern racial identification.
Yeah, that was the Nagas.
Exactly.
Facts, bro. Facts. All right, this is one for the ages. This is one. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm actually impressed. I can hear the wheels of evolution turning. Get on board. Say yourself. Low key. Bro, I appreciate, man. Bro, you just don't know. Oh, bro, you
gotta give a shout out. I gotta give a shout out to the brother, one of the most hated, Corey Holker. Because, hey, as a man, I know women wouldn't understand, especially the sisters, but you gotta understand, it's some jewels that we take. We ain't trying to be stomped down, on no flagrant shit or nothing like that. But you gotta understand, I'm proud of the brother standing up for Kyrie, saying what he said, putting the information out there that another angle on this situation is that it's about the money, because Kyrie sat out for the jab, for the shot,
right,
during the whole thing
with COVID.
And COVID, and New York is giving back pay to those people who sat out and missed out on pay. So the money that they were going to have to pay Kyrie, for the time that he was sat down, is one of the reasons why they, you see the $500,000 they saying that Kyrie has to donate. And, this is also a money play. This is also an economic thing. They trying to put him on punishment because they know they got to pay up and they got to run that man his money, But shout out to Sarah Sunsetti, Dr. Umar, Red Pill, Blue Pill,
Yeah.
19 Keys, Rhythm Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Come on.
The living legend, Brother Cole Black,
Come on.
shout out to Brother Jamal, shout out to all kinds of brothers and
Brett
sisters out
Jamal.
there doing
Come
their
on.
thing out there, man. We in this thing, let's keep this thing going. This is compound interest. It doesn't matter if this is not a hot topic coming up in the next few days. This is nothing but cause and effect in motion. And as we put forth action behind these ideas, we're going to see more of these things coming out in the future.
Thank you all for listening. We have been live right here on Road Pick Radio, live with Brother Low Key. And till next time, we out.
Okay.